What's up, Sneaky Nation? Sneaky P here, back with all the news after week 1 of season number 3 in our Columbus Aviators franchise, where the Aviators picked up a 34-27 victory over the Houston Texans, their division rival. Despite a very poor preseason in which the Aviators went 4-0, things were not looking good early on in the game. However, they finally got their act together, turning it around and picking up a big second half comeback to lead to a victory. Now, a few different things to say about that. You know, the turnovers definitely hurt us. They allowed the Texans to get up very early on us and build a pretty solid lead. However, the Texans' two starting quarterbacks, their starting quarterback and their number 2 guy, both went down with injuries, bringing in the rookie Blake, who just could not get the job done. Once he came into the game, he did have a touchdown pass, but the offense really stalled, and our defense started stepping up, forcing 3 and outs. In fact, I think we only allowed 3 points in the entire second half, so a big game from our defense and finally stepping up there. Again, it happened against a young rookie quarterback. Had we been going up against another starter, that might not have happened. They might have picked our defense apart. Who knows? But however, they did get the job done, and it was good enough to take the Aviators to a 1-0 record and get an early lead on a division opponent. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins. They are 0-1 coming into this game. Now, let's go ahead. Now, Marcus Mariota had a monster game. We were really passing the ball a whole lot. Sankey couldn't get into any kind of rhythm, and we were playing from behind for the majority of the game. And he didn't have the greatest completion percentage, but overall, he did do a great job of finding a lot of wide receivers. I really want to get more involved in the passing game this year. And the fact that so many different players all got receptions is a good sign for this team. As you see here, the Jaguars also picking up a win. And the Colts, man, they just continue to struggle as they got a loss. Our next 3 games all on the road. After the Dolphins, we have that same Colts team and then a rematch against the Texans. Let's go ahead and find out the players of the week for week number 1. We don't really need to get into the NFL news a whole lot yet. We might look at our division. As you see, Kaepernick with the Eagles, 18 of 21, 243 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns for him, 14 carries, 87 yards. Kendricks for the Vikings, 18 tackles, a fumble forced, and a fumble recovered. Mincy with the Baltimore Ravens with 9 tackles, 3 sacks, a fumble forced, and a fumble recovered. And then Marcus Mariota coming out strong. He threw the ball 52 times, only 32 completions. I say only, that's obviously a lot, but not a great completion percentage when you consider it was 52 throws. But 373 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He also had a rushing touchdown, which was very huge for that Aviator offense, as well as 1 interception. He took 2 sacks as well. But enough to win AFC Offensive Player of the Week, which is very good. That's good for his morale early on. As you saw there, he actually leads the NFL in passing yards at the moment. What we might do here is go ahead and look at our division. And Tom Savage, who went down early with an injury, is going to have the best rating, but obviously only 61 yards with that. Outside of that, Marcus Mariota leading the way, 88 quarterback rating, 373 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Andrew Luck behind him, 286 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Blake Bortles throwing a touchdown and an interception with 295 yards. And then Blake really struggled. Again, the Texans offense just started to stall when the rookie quarterback from Auburn came into the game. In terms of running the ball, Bishop Sankey leading the way. He did carry the ball a little bit more. And the Aviators, that was another thing with the game. The Aviators controlled the clock pretty much the entire game. Once Blake came in, I say the entire game, the second half. Once Blake came in, it was a lot of 3 and outs happening, and the Aviators were doing a great job of controlling possession. As you see, 23 carries, 96 yards, and a touchdown for Sankey. Matt Forte, 18 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown. And then Monte Ball against the Aviators defense, 21 carries, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. TJ Yeldon leading the way over here for the Jaguars, 17 carries for 50 yards, only 2.9 yards a carry there, though. The rookie Reed, though, for the Texans, a great game. 5 carries, 36 yards, 7.2 yards a carry. And then Blake did a pretty good job of running the ball as well. So definitely 2 guys that we're going to have to look out for on the Texans roster. We might go check their injury report as well. Curtis Harden, 8 catches, 62 yards, and 2 touchdowns for him. Marlon Brown for the Colts, 8 catches, 107 yards. Allen Robinson, 7 catches for 104. And then Wayne Chapman, 16 for 102. Pretty nice to see Morgan up here. And then Parker Hester, the star second-year wide receiver there for the Colts. 5 catches, 61 yards. Havili, the fullback, going to have a touchdown there for the Jaguars. Any other touchdowns in the division? And then Monte Ball, we knew about that one. Defensively, let's see what we got. Eric Berry on the Colts leading the way with 12 tackles, 11 for Cushing and Raheem Moore and Mark Weston Huff, and then 10 for Avery Williamson. Sacks, we got 2 for Odrick, 2 for Derek Morgan, J.J. Watt, but he had a monster game, forcing and recovering a fumble, and he got into the backfield quite a lot as well. Damian Stafford with the sack, Merciless with the sack, Arakpo with the sack, and Jonathan Newsom getting his sack as well. In terms of interceptions, Raheem Moore and Paul Posluszny leading the way there. So that's going to be the stats for our division. Let's go ahead and check out our opponent for week number 2, the Miami Dolphins. It's going to be interesting to see how they do. Let's go ahead and look at that injury report for the Texans as well. They might need to sign somebody, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So let's go do that. Where would they're going to be up here, aren't they? I know math. Or math, I said math. I know my alphabet. Rashad Jones is down with an injury for them. I did not notice that early on. And then Dalton Crosby is down. So they are going to get their backup quarterback back, which is good for them. You know, they're not going to have to rely on Blake. Now, they might still try to sign a third guy. That'll be an interesting thing to see if that happens. So before we check out the Dolphins lineup, I also want to check out the Saints. The Saints are going to be a big role with our team because we have a lot of their picks coming up. I think we have their first, second, and third round picks this year. So we really stocked up in this draft, and I definitely want to pay attention to how their team is doing throughout the season. And they are going to win 44-29 over the Falcons. Again, we know the Saints team's probably going to be pretty good. Drew Brees is still leading the way for them. And there's Matt Ryan. We saw them in week 4. And we were questioning whether or not he was going to be the guy because they do have Adrian Patrick in waiting. But Matt Ryan obviously having a great game there. And this Saints offense just had a monster performance. It's really going to be interesting to follow them throughout the season. Even if we get some late round picks, you know, all those trades we made, I definitely feel like were the right call. It wasn't a very strong draft for us. So anyway, let's go ahead and check out the Dolphins lineup, see what they got going on, and how this team is doing. We know they are 0-1. We know they're 0-1 coming into this game. So let's go find out what their roster is looking like. Are they still rolling with Tannehill? And they are. Ryan Tannehill going to be the starter. Tim Tebow going to be number 2. And Connor Shaw number 3. Dre Parker, the second-year running back. Definitely a guy we're going to have to keep our eye on. The second-year pro from Indiana State. Mike James going to be number 2. And Denard Robinson at 3. Hinoski, I don't know if I said that right. It's going to be their fullback. Wide receiver Jarvis Landry. The fourth-year pro Devontae Parker. Third-year guy David Nelson. And Kenbrell Tompkins. Not a very deep wide receiving core. I guess they're not going to be throwing the ball a whole lot. Interesting to see only 4 wide receivers on the roster. Somebody's got to be down. They do have Jordan Cameron and DJ Williams, both very good tight ends there. Brandon Albert going to be anchoring that left tackle spot. Collins next to him. Mike Pouncey, one of the best centers in the game. Billy Turner. And then a right tackle, Jawan James. So a pretty solid offensive line for him. Earl Mitchell going to be left in. At right end, they have Ndamukong Suh, 98 overall. Devin Harrington at defensive tackle. Jesse Williams at defensive tackle as well. Hodges, left outside linebacker. Harris and Minter going to be those middle linebackers. McKay, the second-year pro. Again, you know what? This is one of those teams we saw quite a lot of rookies on their team last year stand out. Dre Parker being one of them and Ivory McKay being one as well. Brent Grimes, Logan Ryan, Marcus Burley, and Blake going to be the corners there. Malcolm Jenkins going to be at free safety. Walt Aikens going to be at strong safety ahead of the rookie Keyshawn Bryant. That's very interesting that Bryant, the better overall and a guy with more potential, is going to be on the bench here. I wonder why that is. Looking at zone coverage is probably the reason. Aikens is a lot better in coverage right now, and I guess they're just going to try to bring on Bryant slowly, would be my guess. Jordan Gay going to be their kicker. At punter, they have John Ryan. Kick returner, Dre Parker and Blake. And punt returner, Parker and Brian. So let's go ahead and check out their injury report, see if they have anything going on there. I didn't really notice any rookies outside of that strong safety there, so it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, they had a great draft the year prior. But, you know, you have to have a great draft for a lot of years in a row to really build up a dynasty. So they have Kenny Stills is out. That's the one wide receiver they are missing, and he is out for 21 weeks. He is done for the season. He is on IR. Nikel Roby is out, as well as Owen Daniels, another pretty solid tight end for them. But anyway, that is going to be it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please smash that like button. It really helps me out a lot, and I will see you guys in week 2 as we take on the Miami Dolphins. Later.